is Taniel Koushakjian. He's the Communications Director of the Armenian Assembly of America right here in Washington, D.C. Taniel, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Anand.
Armenia's President Serge Sargsyan this week said that he's ready to start reconciliation talks with Turkey. He wants to try and diffuse tensions. He wants to try and put this matter to rest, or at least start the process to put it to rest. Were you surprised by what seems to be an olive branch that he's holding out here?
I'm actually not surprised. This is not the first time the president of Armenia has, in your words, extended the olive branch. Upon his election in the presidency, he began the outreach to the Turkish government with an op-ed in the New York Times saying we are ready to talk to Turkey. And that led to the to the protocols that were signed in 2009, governed by the Swiss, French, and United States governments. So this is not the first time the Armenian people have extended their hand, but we just hope that the Turks will be able to unclench their fist, as President Obama said when he was referring to taking a look back at dark periods in countries past.
And speaking of President Obama, your organization, the American Assembly of Armenia, was informed this week that the president will not recognize the 1915 killings as genocide. What did you make of that?
We think it is a great disappointment for Armenian Americans and for all people of goodwill, those who fight to prevent genocide. This is a step back in that fight, and we are very disappointed in the president's remarks, expected remarks tomorrow. We hope that the president will still honor his pledge. We still have hope that he will do so. He was a very strong proponent of the Armenian Genocide Resolution while he was a senator and as a candidate, and we hope that he will continue to carry his views not only personally but officially in the executive office.
Clearly, things have changed once the senator got into the White House and became president. Look, the term genocide generates a lot of emotions on both sides of this debate. The UN Secretary General is not calling it genocide. He's calling it atrocity crimes. Why is it important to Armenia and the Armenians for this to be called a genocide?
Because of the systematic nature, and the gentleman that you showed in your segment, is an example of the identity theft of the Armenian population in Anatolia. There was an article again in the New York Times today that talked about hidden Armenians, and there are virtually hundreds of thousands of Turkish citizens who have Armenian ancestry. They just don't know it, or those who find out about it take the steps that the courageous young man took. And that is an example of the systemic nature of the crime. It was systematic, it was deliberate, it was intentional. Dr. Taniel Koushakjian has written extensively on the systemic nature of this crime. And it is important that we speak forcefully about the genocide, acknowledge it for what it was, so that a true reconciliation can begin. True reconciliation between the Turkish and Armenian people is based on the foundation of acknowledgement of past crimes. Imagine a German government today that was unrepentant in the Holocaust. That's virtually what we have, and on the border of Armenia. So this is not only just a moral issue, it could also be a national security issue for the Armenian government, because when you look at a state that's your neighbor, it's right across the border, that has committed genocide against you, yet fails to acknowledge it, could serve as an impotence to repeat that crime in the future.
Well, to add to the controversy, the Pope Francis, has now spoken about this. In fact, what he said, calling it genocide, he called it the first genocide of the 20th century. That's been condemned. That statement's been condemned by the Turkish President, Recep Tayyip Erdogan. Let's take a listen to what the Turkish president said, and then I have a question. Let's watch this.
When politicians and religious leaders attempt to do the job of historians, they will not achieve the truth but only delusion. I want to repeat our call for a joint commission. I want to stress we are ready to open our archives, and I want to warn the Pope not to repeat this mistake again, and I condemn him.
The Turkish president has also called for historians to look into this to find out what really happened. Say historians do get into this, look into it, another study. Would that be beneficial to Armenia?
Well, first of all, the fact that the Turkish president has condemned the Pope, I think, is a major issue that should not be taken lightly. To condemn the spiritual leader of a billion religious people on this planet is really unfounded in my definition of the term. So when you look at President Erdogan's statement last year and you compare it to this year where he condemns a pope, to say that he has softened his position on this issue would not be reflective of the facts. Going back to your point or question on a reconciliation commission, there actually was a reconciliation commission in 2000. Turkish and Armenians sat down and they appealed to the ICJ, and the International Criminal Court of Justice found that the events of 19 meet the definition of genocide. Then the Turks walked away from that panel. So this is just another distraction attempt to distract attention away from the fact of the Armenian genocide. We have sat down, we have talked with the Turks, they continue to walk away. So any objectivity to the notion that the Turks want to sit down and look at this objectively is unfair, because we already have.
Right, and so much hinges around the terminology. We had the Turkish Prime Minister, Ahmet Davutoglu, and he said, and I'm quoting here, to reduce everything to a single word, to load all of the responsibility on the Turkish nation, and to combine this with a discourse of hatred is legally and morally problematic, end quote.
Those are very, very tough words. I understand the domestic situation of the Turkish government. That being said, when he looks to reduce the crime to a word, we're looking to expand reconciliation from it. There can only be a true and genuine reconciliation between the Turkish and Armenian people based on the foundation of an acknowledgement of past crimes. The Armenians are ready to do that. The Armenians are ready to open the border. But where's Turkey in this process? Why have they continued to take a step back? Last year we were somewhat encouraged to see the Turkish government take a step forward. But this year they've taken 2 steps back, and it is unfortunate, because I know there are many Armenians around the world who want to see the border open, who want to see true reconciliation, and for the Armenians and the Turks to become friends and citizens and neighbors again.
Would it be fair to say that both sides want the same thing? It's just the path they're taking to the same place. On the one hand, the Armenians are saying, we want acknowledgement, we want reconciliation. That's the one side. The Turks are saying, well, we have another study, even if we had a study. We have another one. Historians look into this. And we'll find out really what happened. Let's remove all the emotional terminology out of this, and we'll get to the same place.
We've had plenty of studies about the Holocaust, and I don't think that is debated anymore, and the same should hold true with the Armenian Genocide. So I think that's the answer to that question. Again, moving forward, this is a process that will require leadership, and why we feel it's important for the United States to speak out on this crime. France has done so, Russia has done so, the Switzerland government. Imagine the countries that negotiated the protocols in 2009. All of them, except for the United States, has recognized the Armenian Genocide officially. I'm a firm believer in the opinion that once our country displays the leadership required, that Turkey will then follow the lead of the rest of the civilized world. To be behind the Pope on this issue and not in front of him is a disgrace, and I'd like to see a clear voice as opposed to the moral laryngitis that is claiming this administration.
Right. To be fair, though, here in the United States, I mean, we have one view from the White House. We have a different view from Congress. In fact, Congress is holding a hearing on this right now, and
Absolutely.
We had one of the representatives who says that these killings should be called genocide.
Absolutely. Our board co-chairman, Van Krikorian, is testifying today on the Helsinki Commission. He has testified numerous occasions on the need. In fact, he was one of the people who was involved in the Turkish-Armenian Reconciliation Commission in the year 2000. So in addition to his experience and vast knowledge on this issue, Dr. Taner Akçam, who is a Turkish scholar, who is one of the few who have actually had the access to the Turkish archives and studied the documents in ancient Ottoman, wrote a very voluminous and extensive novel on this. In fact, I saw him down in my alma mater at Florida Atlantic University this past Sunday, and he showed the mathematical accuracy, is what he called it, to the quote-unquote deportation process, which was meant to exterminate the Armenian population, to reduce the Christian Armenian population below a 10% threshold for those that did survive. And then when more than that number did survive, another wave of killing began. So this systemic nature of the Armenian Genocide has been documented by the Americans, right, by Turkish authorities themselves, by missionaries. So there is really no debate or controversy about the Armenian Genocide, in my opinion. The controversy is the denial.
Given all the rhetoric, the emotions, the controversy, about this, in your heart of hearts, can you see Armenia and Turkey get past this?
I think they can, and I think it's going to take a civil society approach as well. I've been encouraged by the Track 2 diplomacy that is being undertaken by our embassies in Ankara and Yerevan. I know there is a lot of joint projects and attention to that. Our U.S. ambassadors are doing a great job in Armenia, and we hope that that process will continue and be strengthened and deepened.